Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good. I'd like to welcome you to our general election candidate debate offered for the public's education and sponsored by the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce. My name is Linda Smith and I'm the President and CEO of the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to welcome all of you this evening, as well as our candidate. A couple of notes for the audience. We're pleased to announce that we have two videographers here to record the debate forum. So thank you, John and Joni Ortiz, over here for volunteering your time. If you wish to receive a copy of any or all of the candidates' forums, you may sign a release form in the back and provide it to our volunteer at the materials table. The form is your pledge to us that you will not edit any part of the video to distort a question or candidate answer. If you are recording a candidate with your own equipment, we also ask that you sign the form in the back promising the same. For your edification, restrooms are down the hall, and I'm going to ask you now to please silence your telephones. If you do not know how, like me, I just turned mine off, okay? Please, no clapping, disruptive noise, or comments from the audience throughout the debate. I'm not quite sure if we're going to have time in between our candidates for you to be able to meet them individually. I hope we can do that. Yes? Yes, I'm told yes, we can do that. So if you have any questions or you have any follow-ups to the questions that are being asked this evening, then you can certainly pull aside our candidate and have a quick discussion. Our primary election forums were excellent, and all of the Democratic and Republican candidates appeared for an informative exchange of information and ideas, with the exception of one candidate who could not be in attendance. So before we begin, I need to announce that tonight's debates will only have Republican candidates. After the primary election results were published, our Democratic candidates have all declined to attend this evening. We asked the Republicans if they would like to proceed, but with more time to talk with the public, and they all said yes. Therefore, we're here, and we're moving ahead to host this evening to provide your right to information with the candidates who opted to be here. Here's a general overview of the process. Our candidates have been briefed in advance as to the rules of the forum. This evening, I will serve as the moderator for the candidates seeking the 2 open house seats in the 28th Legislative District. First, we will have a position number 1, followed by position number 2. I will present all of the questions. My assistant, Bev Scott, serves as the timer and is keeping the candidates within their allocated time. Out there she is. The next candidates will be the 29th Legislative District Senate seat, followed by the candidates for each of the House Legislative District positions. It will be monitored by Brigadier General Doug Richardson, the former mayor of Lakewood. His assistant in keeping the candidates within their allocated time is Sam Scott. Each candidate will have 3-minute opening statements. Responses to questions are to be limited to 1.5 minutes each. So let's begin with Gabe Sachwitz, who is running for the 28th Legislative District, position number 1 seat.
Hello everyone, how is everybody doing today? It's a beautiful day outside, the sun is shining, it's really nice.
I didn't have to go to jury duty.
Yes, jury duty can definitely take up a lot of time. So my name is Gabe Sachwitz, and I am currently running for position 1 in the 28th District. I am currently a teacher and a volunteer firefighter. I was a former deputy sheriff of San Bernardino County and a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I have earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a master's degree in human behavior. I can't help but always volunteer for almost everything. I love to serve my community whenever there is an opportunity to do so. You know, there's always something that needs to be done. There's always people that need to participate and be involved in the community. That's one thing that helps our communities flourish and to grow and prosper the way we all want them to. Some of the things that got me into running for this position is when I would vote in the past, it was always very disappointing to see a bad option and a worse option, or no option at all. And that just didn't seem right to me. And then on top of that, when I would start observing our supposed leaders in positions of powers, it seemed like a lot of them were just there to continue their career. They didn't really have the courage to make the hard decisions that need to be made. They just wanted to do whatever they could to protect their career. And leadership is not that. Leadership is a service. It is something that you're supposed to do and not necessarily want to do. You're partaking in it and you're serving the community. Again, you're not there to build your legacy. You're not there to boost your career or try to save your career. And I really truly think that hinders a lot of people's decisions when when they have to make those hard decisions. And I'm not that person. I want to take on these challenges. I want to take on these hard, or make these hard decisions. I know what is entailed in them, and I know what is required. So I only have a few more seconds to talk, but that's definitely more than what was given before. And I thank you guys, and definitely vote for Gabe Sachwitz.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with our questions. This is regarding the gas tax. By governor request and passed by the legislature on a party line vote in 2021, the Climate Commitment Act, Senate Bill 5126, became law. Part of that law includes a greenhouse gas emissions cap and investment program. That program will start January 1, 2023. Based on the Department of Ecology's projections released this summer, Washington State's new tax on CO2 emissions will add about 46.6 cents to the cost of a gallon of gas in 2023. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Washington residents already pay about 70 cents per gallon more than the average price in the United States. What is your position on the law, and what action needs to be taken, if any?
Well, that particular legislation definitely needs to be repealed. There is other legislation that could be amended in order to accommodate green energy, but raising the gas tax with the prices of gas as they are right now should not be happening. We definitely do not want to pay an additional almost 50 cents per gallon of gas. No, absolutely not. I know some gas prices have gone down recently, but they are still pretty high, and I most certainly do not want to pay any more that is necessary to pay on the gas. And on top of that, when I was reading through that legislation, it seems like funds are being reallocated to things other than the highways and the roads, which within the Washington State Constitution, any tax that is on fuel or registration is supposed to be spent on roads and highways and things like that. So that's for that.
Thank you. Next is regarding school choice. The U.S. Supreme Court, as a result of its June 2022 landmark decision, Carson et al. Versus Macon, has now made it clear that no state may prevent families from using a generally available tax tuition assistance program to send their children to private religious schools. Lawmakers in Washington state are now free to debate choice bills like the 4 bills introduced during the 2022 legislative session. These bills would have given families who want options up to $10,000 to send their children to private school. If the state legislature were to pass these bills, private religious schools must be included in the list of possible options families have to educate their children. What is your position on this issue and the legislation introduced in 2022?
So we claim to be a free society and we should embrace it as such. So people should have the choice to send their children to whatever school they feel is most appropriate. And that's where I stand on that, so freedom.
Thank you. Next is on improving public education. Children are returning to the classroom, but there is no dispute that the COVID lockdown has set our children back in their education, and math and reading skills have declined significantly. Further, there is a significant percent of children that have not returned to the classroom, public classroom, for reasons unknown to the schools and Office of Public Administration. What do you believe needs to change to improve our public education and improve children's test scores?
Well, there's definitely a lot that needs to be addressed. And I know a lot of people, or not necessarily a lot of people want to hear this, but reasonable class sizes are definitely key. I know from my experience when I'm teaching a class, about 20 students is a good size class. Anything more than 20 students, you kind of lose track of all the students and what's happening in the classroom. Anything less than 10 students, and it seems a bit too empty. So somewhere between 15 and 20 students per class is definitely ideal. And I know from my experience that I can spend a lot of quality time with each individual student and making sure that they are learning the material. So that's one option that you can address as far as classes and students improving their education. And then no more COVID restrictions. Those are really hindering our schools, and that really needs to come to an end. There's a lot of students that I have witnessed, and they're struggling socially. They haven't developed the key social skills that they need in order to communicate with other students and other human beings of all ages.
Thank you. Next is expanding agency powers. Governor Inslee has taken several actions in recent years to direct his agencies, especially the Department of Ecology and the Building Council, to adopt rules to implement his environmental goals. Many impacted stakeholders view this aggressive rulemaking action to be a legislative responsibility and not within the powers of a non-elected body. What are your views on this issue, and if elected, what actions will you take to return decision-making to the legislature?
I believe that the least amount of power that the governor has is better. That it should be within the legislation and of the people. You know, it's the one thing that I've learned when I go through the Washington State Constitution is that the people actually have a lot of power in this state, and that's where it should lie. It should not lie solely with the governor. You know, we're not trying to live in some sort of dictatorship. Nobody wants that. We all want a republic, which is a representative of the people. You know, we are the people of the people. And again, one thing that is very special about Washington State is that the people here have the most power, as long as we all participate. So definitely limiting the powers of the governor. Absolutely.
Thank you. The next is regarding police reform. The Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force officers place the blame for the dramatic increase in auto thefts on two pieces of legislation, which is preventing them from doing their job. The first severely restricts police ability to pursue the criminal. The second law prevents officers from talking to suspected criminals that are juveniles without an attorney present. As a result, it is believed that the gangs are hiring minors to commit these crimes. Do you believe that their assessment is accurate? And if so, what will you do to correct this problem if elected?
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes. The Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force officers, not the whole thing, just the question.
The whole thing.
Just okay.
There's a lot of information there.
Yeah. The Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force officers placed the blame for the dramatic increase in auto thefts on two pieces of legislation, which is preventing them from doing their job. The first severely restricts police ability to pursue the criminal. The second law prevents officers from talking to suspected criminals that are juveniles without an attorney present. As a result, it is believed that the gangs are hiring minors to commit crimes. Do you believe that their assessment is accurate? And if so, what will you do to correct this problem if elected?
Yeah, I think that the assessment is definitely accurate. And you know, when it comes to police pursuits, I know that that is very dangerous. There are accidents that happened. But the reality is there is not an alternative yet. So since we don't have an alternative to replace something like police pursuits, we have to still kind of keep using it. I mean, I have some ideas that we can use, but again, there has to be a pilot program to see if it even works. Again, everything sounds great in theory, but in practice, it can fall apart most often. And again, if we had something different than having to pursue somebody, because again, it's very dangerous, accidents happening, and there's no other way around it, then we would use that. But for right now, that's all we have, and that's all we're just going to have to use. In regards to questioning minors, this is a challenging one. And yes, criminal organizations are going to take advantage of the fact that minors might or might not be able to be questioned. You know, it's the other day, I was talking to this young individual without naming any names, and he had gotten a speeding ticket. And his friends told him that he should have just, fled because the police aren't going to pursue him. So the word is spreading, and we definitely have to do something about that. But my time is pretty much up.
Thank you. The next is regarding Washington's long-term care. One of the state's actuary and the research organization Washington Policy Center find that the Washington Cares Long-Term Care Act is and will continue to be insolvent by at least $15 billion unless the mandatory payroll taxes increase substantially. Further, the benefit under the law is $36,500, which is well understood to be an amount inadequate for any long-term care for more than a few months. The legislature placed a constitutional amendment on the ballot to create additional funding for the program. It failed 54 to 46%. The only action last session by the legislature was to create more exemptions to the mandatory tax and delay the tax for a year. This issue must be addressed in the coming session. What do you propose for a solution to the long-term health care program?
Well, I definitely have to do more research on this topic. But from what I'm gathering so far is the Long-Term Care Act is just a clever way to have an income tax. And it seems like that there's a bunch of individuals in legislation that keep trying to push this income tax in our state. So we definitely want to avoid that. But other than that, I still have to do more research on the topic.
Thank you. Next is regarding capital gains. The state Supreme Court has agreed to a direct review of the lower court's decision declaring that the legislature acted illegally in passing the capital gains tax. The lower court stated that the application of the capital gains tax meets the definition of an income tax, which is restricted by the Constitution. This decision is expected before the legislature convenes in 2023. What is your position on the current capital gains tax and what legislative action, if any, is needed on this issue?
Another topic that I'm not too familiar with, the capital gains tax is something I still need to do more research on. But as far as anything in regards to an income tax, I definitely want to avoid that at all costs.
Thank you. Next is regarding housing. Much has been done at the state and local level to improve housing for the low income and remove the homeless from the streets. Do you believe more needs to be done? Also, how do we assure that the middle class doesn't get squeezed out by the marketplace in the process?
So in regards to homeless, that is a pretty big issue. We all see it, we see it on the streets. And more specifically to that, there is something that European countries are referring to as the open drug scene and mentally ill camping out on the street. And when we look at it like that, we have a specific problem that we can address. And this is actually a very, very serious problem, because these individuals that are on the street that are suffering from drug addiction and or mental illness, there's a lot of people that are being victimized within these homeless encampments and communities. And again, it's not safe for them, and it is not safe for our communities, and it quite frankly, it is an eyesore. We go down the streets and we see these encampments on the sides of the roads. So this is something that has to be addressed. And specifically with drugs and mental illness, obviously we would have to reallocate funds in order to create facilities that can accommodate these individuals and address their issues. And then as far as like the grander problem is in regards to housing and making sure that there's enough housing supply, that's more of just a supply and demand issue. So the more supply and the less demand, the prices are theoretically supposed to go down.
Okay. Next is regarding workplace injuries. Injuries in the workplace caused by repetitive motion, such as a grocery clerk scanning the price of products, is regulated by the federal government, and our state labor and industries implements the regulation. These regulations are known as ergonomics. Organized labor pushed a bill last session to impose heavier regulation at the state level and increase the compensation of workers' comp to employees. Businesses, especially small businesses, opposed the state exceeding an already stringent federal rule. The bill passed the House on a party line vote and failed to be brought to a vote on the Senate floor in the waning days of session. What's your view of the issue, and if elected, how will you vote if this issue is brought back in the 2023 session?
This is quite the topic, and I really tried to find good information on ergonomics. And what I could find out is that with the Washington State Constitution, there is in Article 2, the legislation is supposed to create something for people that are working in hazardous conditions. Now, somebody that's in a job that has like repetitive motion, this is a challenging one, because we would have to create legislation to where the individuals can't take advantage of it, right? But what I have found out so far with the term ergonomics is that there is recent legislation that was repealed, and it's something I'm still trying to look into and find more about. I'm just having difficulty with that one.
Thank you. Well, the next is regarding workplace injuries. Injuries in the workplace caused by repetitive, nope. No, it's not. My apologies. The next is regarding the budget surplus. Yeah. Are you familiar with the most recent state's forecast by the Economic Forecast Council? If so, what is the projected surplus or deficit at this time? How does the legislature need to address the budget next session?
Yeah, this one I do not know. I was told some recent information, and I do not confirm whether or not it was accurate, so I do not have an answer for this one. But I can say that we have to stay within our budget no matter what. We can't be overspending and just going crazy with the budget.
Okay. Well, that is the end of our questions for the evening. I would like to give you a minute to close. 3 minutes. 3 minutes to close.
All right, well,
Anytime.
3 minutes to close.
Up to.
Up to 3 minutes to
3
close.
minutes. Yes.
Well, the one thing that's most concerning to me, as I read through bill after piece of legislation after piece of legislation, is it seems like the individuals that are voting on it, kind of just like my candidate, or not candidate, but opponent who is not here, has voted for legislation it doesn't seem like she even read. You know, I'm speculating on that, but that's what it seems like. Because when I read through it, there's a lot of discrepancies. There's a lot of things that, again, I'm not a legal expert, but it seems like it's violating the Washington Constitution. You know, it's very worrisome. It goes back to when I was discussing in the opening about individuals that are in this for a career. You know, and they're party loyalists in the sense that they're just voting because they're being told to vote for a specific bill instead of actually representing the people's interests. Again, that is very concerning to me. And that is why I'm here, is because I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to put in the work and read through the legislation and make sure that stuff that shouldn't be getting passed is not getting passed. You know, I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was this bad. I didn't think that, you know, these individuals in these positions were just taken for granted. You know, and hopefully, as soon as I get in, we can change things. Again, I can represent the people. I represent you. I am here to work for you. Your tax dollars pay me to represent you. And that's what I want to do. I want to serve you guys. Okay. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Gabe Sachwitz, thank you so much for joining us this evening.